Welcome to the Soul Health Mentor podcast with Nadia Kraus. Learn how to move your awareness out of your mind and into your heart so you can embody your divinity, experience joyous peace of mind, and create your most vibrant life by opening to receive your soul's sacred medicine.
Hello, beautiful soul. Hello, strong heart. Hey, brilliant listener. Welcome back to Soul Health Mentor Podcast. It is so wonderful that you are here listening. Today, we're going to talk about all the different roles we play and how they help us relate to each other as human beings, no matter what our background or our culture. But we're also going to answer the question, does the role you're currently playing serve you? And obviously you answer that question for yourself. Nobody gets to answer that question for you. But we're literally talking about the roles we take on via conditioning and societal norms that have very little to do with our authentic divine self-expression. And when we speak about roles, the first question I want to ask you, have you ever thought about the role you play as an archetype? And let me elaborate on that question and explain what I mean by that. So the mother, the father, the daughter, the brother, the cousin, the sister, the husband, the child, the employee, the employer, the business owner, the entrepreneur, the dance instructor, the mentor, the coach, all of those are roles, but they are also archetypes. And what that means, it's this universal knowing. So it doesn't matter in what culture you are brought up and what language you speak, every culture and every nation is going to understand what a mother is. Same goes for the father, same goes for daughter, wife, husband, brother, sister, employer, employee, business owner, entrepreneur, teacher, mentor, coach. There's maybe going to be cultural differences in what is expected in that role, but everybody's going to know that a mother nurtures, nourishes, and supports her children. A father, these are the roles we've played in humanity. A father typically used to be the provider. Obviously, these roles are changing with the evolution of humanity. And that's exactly the point. That is exactly the point. The archetypes of mother, father, daughter, husband, wife, sister are archaic. They have belief systems attached to them. Archaic, not a judgment, just they are very, very old because we as a species are old. We've been here a few thousand years. We've evolved since then, more than just a few thousand years, but you get my point. And we're still upholding these roles of mother, father, daughter, brother, sister, you get the point, employee, teacher, employer. All these old archetypes, they have belief systems attached to them, expectations attached to them, and they are often completely outdated. Just like it used to be, the typical role playing, I'm just going to call it that, in the household. The mother stays home, takes care of the children, and cooks and cleans, and is just at home, and the husband provides and goes to work and earns the money and takes care of things. That's the typical archetype we all know. And there's nothing wrong with living in that structure. It is just sometimes we don't want to live in that structure anymore. We want to have a career as a woman. We want to earn our own money. We want to be financially empowered. And husbands might want to stay home with their children and not be at work all the time and miss their children growing up. So this typical role playing, for lack of a better word, has changed, and it is changing. It's very, very different in Europe than it is here in the United States. And that there's nothing wrong with that. That's cultural, but everybody kind of understands what a mother, father, and a family is. So that's what is meant when we speak about archetypes and the roles we play in these archetypes. And the important question is, after that, after realizing what archetypes and roles are, the important question now is, have you ever heard of archetype repatterning as a form of soul health care? You know, here at Soul Health Mentor Podcast, it's all about your soul health care. And you as a soul have a higher self vision. You as a soul, you the one that's listening, that can relate to being a soul with a higher purpose, with a vision, with a higher self, with a mission here on earth to live your full potential, to create new experiences. You might be experiencing an insecurity right now because an old identity is dying. Maybe you're noticing that the typical mother archetype, the typical father archetype, the typical employee archetype no longer works for you. And you don't really know who you are anymore. This typically happens after a spiritual awakening or something like a divorce. You know that you're not your old self, but you don't know who your new self is. So that really brings about a lot of insecurity. And then add impatience to that, because our personality, our ego, is definitely not patient. We are a society that is conditioned to bring results quickly and fast, and if we're not productive and busy, then we're not worth anything. So that is the conditioned mind that then will want to know immediately who we are. But the soul and the heart and the higher self has a completely different rhythm. It is a becoming. It is an unfolding. So when we go through things like a divorce or a spiritual awakening, and a spiritual awakening just means that all of a sudden you have a spiritual experience in the sense that you connect to your intuition, you connect to your higher self, and you have maybe something like a download, just something literally like software being downloaded into your being, and all of a sudden you're, oh my gosh, my life is not a representation of my potential. My life is not fun. My life is not joyous. Which life is this? How did this happen? How did I create this life that doesn't feel like me? How did I create this life that maybe isn't even mine? And that's how archetypes work as well. As a mother, daughter, and a father, and a son, as a family, we're also in these expectations. What is expected of us? And maybe we went to college and we did certain things, but it's not really what we want at a heart and soul level. So when you find yourself in that insecurity because an old identity wants to die, and you're realizing that the role that you're playing no longer serves you, it's not what you want, it doesn't make you happy, and it doesn't feel like you're growing, it doesn't feel like you're expanding, it doesn't feel exciting, it doesn't feel, like you're expanding. That's the best way to say it, expanding and growing. Then, when you find yourself right there, it is so important to realize that you have the power to repattern whatever archetype, whatever role you find yourself in. And I'm going to use an example at this point, because it will be easiest to talk about archetypes. There's so many. I don't want to keep repeating all these archetypes. So I'm going to just use the archetype of the worker bee and the queen bee. And of course, in nature, there is a natural rhythm and a natural cycle, and there's such a thing as a hive mind. And the queen is connected to the hive and knows exactly what the hive needs. And in nature, typically, all beings thrive unless human beings interfere. Nature takes care of itself. So I'm not talking about nature when I'm talking about worker bees or queen bees. I'm talking about that expression in our humanity. So when I started with Soul Health Mentor as a podcast and a business, I was still heavily in worker bee mode because I had just left the corporate world. I was a corporate health coach, and I like to say today that I'm a former corporate health coach, now promoting your divinity. And your divinity is your soul health, and your soul health are all of your 5 subtle bodies. It's not just the physical body. It is also the emotional body, the mental body, the spiritual body, and your light body, your soul. And within your soul and your light body, you have blueprints. You have an original divine soul blueprint with a soul's gift. And that soul's gift wants to be lived. It wants to be expressed. Your potential wants to grow here. And it is a fantastic feeling to be aligned with your soul's gift and to be of service to yourself and others. That really is a purpose that is quite different than going to a job and getting a paycheck. While there's nothing wrong with that, absolutely not, nothing is wrong with it. Not everybody is meant to be a business owner or an entrepreneur. I can just tell you that in my makeup, in my blueprints, I was born for doing my own thing, and I've done so many different jobs. I've really tried to squeeze myself into so many different roles, beginning with a seamstress because I wanted to study fashion design and didn't have the means. So I did an internship, and internships in Germany are very different than here in the United States. An internship in Germany means you get paid, and it means you learn a trade for 3 years, and you go to school once a week, and you have an exam. So I did the seamstressing because I wanted to be a fashion designer. And within that, I became an aerobics instructor. And then I got married really young, and the whole fashion thing didn't make sense anymore. I wanted to be married. And so I went the route of, since I already did my aerobics instructor, I went the route of fitness. And then my first business I created at 24. If I didn't have that in my blueprint, in my nature, I don't believe that I would have opened a business at age 24. That's not typically what 24-year-olds do. It is the exception, not the rule. It's getting more and more, and I think that's wonderful. But at the time when I did that, it was not something that was usual for a 24-year-old, especially in Germany, to open her own business. It was called Fitness for Body and Soul, and you can see how important soul was back then already for me. And I did that for a while. But being an entrepreneur, a business owner, is not easy, so I kept going back and forth between employee, I never employed anybody, employee and business owner, employee and business owner. I tried many different things, many different things. I've played the role of not just aerobics instructor, but yoga teacher, business owner, dance instructor, Weight Watchers coach, fitness trainer, wellness trainer. What else? I even worked for telecom, door-to-door saleswoman. I've worked at a high ropes course. I've worked on a cruise ship. I've been sports staff on a cruise ship. I've worked at a bank. I've worked at a kindergarten as a teacher's assistant. You can see and feel and sense how many different roles I've played. I've been a Zumba instructor. It's kind of ridiculous. I definitely have worn many different kinds of shoes, and I've walked a mile in each of those shoes. And then lastly, the last thing I did was corporate health coach. And I got to know myself really, really well. I got to know my talents, my skill set, my likes, my dislikes. And during that whole time when I was exploring, the destination was less of a place, but a new way of seeing the world and myself. So every time I took on a role and tried something new, it was a new way of seeing myself and the world. And I tried it on to find my fierce why, to find what I truly, truly want to stand for. And in all of those roles, I also found typical archetypes that are archaic, very old, and meaning that in this modern world and in this world of rising consciousness and growth and personal development, it just doesn't make sense to uphold these norms that are thousands and thousands of years old and completely outdated. So the last role that I played was the corporate health coach. And then I started my business, started Soul Health Mentor, and I came into it with this worker bee mentality. We are drilled by the corporate world to produce and to hustle and to stress and to push and to work beyond our limits, to work way past burnout, to not ask for much, to prove ourselves, and it's never enough. It's either too much if your personality isn't the typical kind of personality that fits in nicely, then you're too much, or what you do, it's never enough. So this whole too much and never enough was what I found myself in because I was embodying the worker bee archetype, like hustle, hustle, stress, stress, push, push, prove, prove, work hard, and work so hard so that it's even in the language, so that you can earn a living. Like we need to earn our right to be here on this earth. And this archetype, this worker bee archetype as a human that is drilled into us, that was so hard to let go of. It was ridiculous. It was such deep conditioning. It took me 2 years. It easily took me 2 years, and I faced all kinds of insecurity, all kinds of identity problems. Like, who am I now when I'm not in this hustle culture, when I'm not in this, oh, I've got to prove myself and my worth. And I was very, very impatient. And the impatience came from the reality that it really, really scared me. It really, really scared me. I didn't know who I was. I didn't know what role I'm here to play anymore. And then I just started showing up for Soul Health Mentor Podcast, for my client work, for the work I'm here to do, which is all about soul health and soul health care as a work of heart. It's about the dreams that your soul has for you, the potential that is waiting to be lived by you, to be embodied by you. And I want you to imagine that no matter how much you're struggling right now, I want you to imagine that you're not just going to survive whatever you're going through, but you're going to thrive. When you do this work of intimately getting to know yourself in whatever way you can, by listening to your heart, by learning to get a feeling for your intuition, by finding new solutions, and that might be right here in this podcast. It might be a mentor, a coach. You might be drawn to work with me. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You might be finding books that open up your eyes. It's just about realizing that whatever you're feeling right now, make sure to regularly stop, slow down, breathe, and listen. Listen to your heart. And then maybe the next step is being really honest with yourself and realizing, man, there's this role I'm playing that no longer serves me. And I need to let that identity die. But at the same time, it really, really scares me because I don't know where I'm going. I don't know what I'm supposed to do differently. That's how I felt when I was deeply ingrained and embedded in the worker bee mentality. And the way I got out of it was literally just step by step. How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. That's all you can do. So all I looked for is the next aligned action step. And then I did that step. And then it was also really important that I surround myself with people that have gone through that transformation, which is fellow entrepreneurs, fellow business owners, and business builders. And in my case, it's new earth creators. We recently had a beautiful interview here. It was all about New Earth aligned business and what that means. And the interview was with Jen Blumenthal. And I invite you to check that out. Go to soulhealthmentor.com, click the button top left, and it'll take you to the show notes blog, and then just scroll. It's, I think, 3 or 4 podcasts ago. This is podcast number 75, and check it out. Maybe there's something in there for you, just like it was for me as a New Earth business owner. I needed to find people that know that it's not about these old worlds. It's not about this old paradigm, this mainstream way of looking at work. It's about creating new work, new ways of being, using our soul's gift. So that was the second thing I had to do. So the first thing is, hey, step by step, what's the next aligned action step? Because you can only eat an elephant one bite at a time. Next was that I surround myself with like-minded people. And number 3 was to trust my intuition and my higher guidance. So, so important. So let me repeat those 3 things that you can do after you've realized that you're outgrowing an identity, that you're currently playing a role that no longer serves you. Identify the next step. That's number 1. Identify the next step. Number 2 is surround yourself with like-minded people. Number 3 is intuition, divine guidance, listening. That's why I say stop, slow down, breathe, and listen. And at this point, I want to tell you about a membership program that I have that might be able to help you with these 3 steps. Sometimes you just don't know what the next step is. You can't see the forest for its trees, and that's okay. So sometimes you need someone that can hold space for you and that can guide you through a process where you find your deepest desire. And then when you find your deepest desire, you can align to the next step. And I also know and realize that a lot of us have this inner yearning that comes from our heart and soul, but we do not live in an environment where it is normal to talk about personal growth, spiritual awakening and consciousness, transformation, soul level healing, and we might be surrounded by a family and friends that are wonderful people, but that don't have a connection to that. And while we are awakening, we're going through a kind of spiritual awakening because our intuition and our soul is speaking to us, we have nobody to talk to. So it's important to look for communities that can help you with that. And I know that I didn't find my communities in my direct surroundings. I found them online. So I created an online community. I created that first step. It's called a Soul Heart Journey. It's a session with me where I take you on a journey, quite literally, to travel the maze of your life and lift the fog of confusion so that you can find your deepest desire, your power statement, your soul power mantra, and with it, your next aligned action step. And if that next aligned action step then also entails that you want to join a community, then I give you the keys to the temple, to the Empowered Goddess Temple, our virtual temple and membership space, and you get to check it out for a little while. And developing your intuition actually happens when you start taking better care of yourself and you start listening to yourself. So I developed my intuition literally through sacred self-care practices and soul care practices. And these sacred self-care and soul care practices are things that I now teach in the membership. So this is an invitation for you if this speaks to you. And if not, then I totally trust that this Soul Health Mentor podcast episode got your gears going, and by divine synchronicity, you will find someone or something that can help you with that clarity that you need in step 1, with the community that you need to keep going, and with the means to help you develop your intuition and divine guidance so you can just keep going and going and going and find your new fierce why and become the new you. Not hustling, not stressing, but literally becoming the new you by connecting to your soul self. It's a completely different identity that you develop and become when you connect to your soul self. If you want to work with me one-on-one, that's possible as well. I do Akashic Records readings, clearings, and healings where I help you realize and see what your soul's gift is and what your current struggle is trying to tell you. Everything that happens in life, there's a reason for it, and sometimes the challenges we go through are negative karmic blocks and restrictions that need clearing. That's why we also do a clearing. And then there's this healing activation that starts, because you cannot heal what you cannot see, and you cannot change what you cannot see. And lastly, you cannot heal what you cannot feel. Sometimes it's important to stop running from yourself and to feel the things, to be honest. So sit with the question, does the role I'm playing still serve me? And what is my heart and soul letting me know? Thank you so much for being here. Until next week.
Thank you for listening to the Soul Health Mentor podcast with Nadia Kraus. If you like what you heard, please subscribe, rate, and review at Apple Podcasts or wherever podcasts are playing.